guys, Samantha from GSMO Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create bead caps. Now, what I'm referring to are the little end cones that you put typically on pieces of cord or string bead. These are an example. Here's another example, and that's what I'm going to show you how to make today, but with polymer clay. So you're going to want just a piece of scrap clay, and you're going to want to form that roughly into a cone. Now this is if you want to make your own personalized shape. What you can also do is you can use a like the end of a brush, for instance, or a little wooden mandrel. I'm going to show you what they look like using these two as well, but if you want to make, say, your own template, this is how you go about it. Now what you do is you just shape that into a cone, smooth it out on your tile once you've got it into the rough shape, and it's up to you how long and thin it gets. But basically you'll do that, and then I'll just flatten out the bottom slightly. It doesn't matter too much. The actual cone itself is what you're going to be using. And then you're going to take that and you're going to bake that for a full hour at whatever clay you're using's temperature, and you should end up with something like this. Nice and hard, ready to use. Now you can't use this exactly as it is, because if you put polymer clay on top of polymer clay and then bake it, it will end up bonding to each other. So we're going to use some metal foil here, and we're going to wrap just a bit of that around that cone, and that's going to give us a little bit of a layer to stop the clay once we put it on from sticking. There we go. And then for each end I just trim off the extra. And there we go. Okay, and that is how you would make your own blank. Now I'm going to bring over all three, and I'm going to show you how to actually make the bead cap. Okay, and I'm just going to be using some black Primo polymer clay here, and it's up to you how thin you want to roll it out. I would recommend going quite thin, around a millimeter thick, which is what I've got here. You can go thinner, but just don't make it too thick, because it can end up the bead cap just won't look so nice. So I'd say around 1 millimeter thick clay. And I'm just trimming away the extra untidy ends here and straightening it up. And we're going to work with this one first. And what I'm going to do there is I'll start on, I'll just place it down like so, then trim it roughly to the correct size. Trim this at an angle, the same kind of angle that you have going over this. Lift it up, and then wrap this around tightly. Press so that you create an outline of where you want to cut. And then press those two pieces together, and you are going to need to trim away a bit of extra, that's fine. And then just pinch this top bit closed. And I'm showing just the most basic way to make a bead cone here. There are more complicated ways, ones where you would use canes and things like that. This is just a really basic one, but for those I would recommend making basically this first, which is kind of a template to work upon, and then you would pop your cane slices on top so that you can keep everything nice, even and clean. And I will trim the top there, like so. Okay, and I also will go around the base and trim that as well. There we go. I need to go around a few more times just to get it completely flat. Okay, and once you've done that, you can then either smooth it out with your fingers like so, or you can choose to sand it later. Now the top and the bottom are quite difficult to get straight, and that is something I choose to do after I have baked it, because I can just give it a sand and it's much easier to get it all nice and even. So for the moment I'll leave it the way it is. I also want to texture it, and I've just got this nice little kind of fern texture roller, and I'm just going to roll that over the surface like so. And that will just create a nice texture that will get antiqued later on. And I roll from the top of the cone to the bottom, because the bottom of the cone is going to be the easiest spot to get rid of any distortion. Okay, and then once you're happy with that, you're going to leave that exactly as it is, and you're going to bake it on that form as it is. So that's the first one. The next ones are basically all the same. This one is also, you will take a piece of clay and you'll wrap it around. The important thing to keep in mind if you are using a blank of any sort is just to know whether it can be baked or not. If it can't be baked, you're going to have to take the bead cap off before you put it in the oven, and so that is something to bear in mind. This is a little long still. Like this one I can't bake, so I need to make sure that the bead cap's not too long on the piece, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get it off without distorting it. And I'll just take that, roll it all the way till it butts up to the end. It will make a little mark on the clay. You cut that and roll the rest of the way, and that one split. So let me try that again. Okay, there we go. Roll it up, smooth down that join line like so, and then pinch that clay over the top like so, smoothing it down. And then you just spend a bit of time running your finger over the seam to get rid of well, that seam, and also just gently pressing and moulding the top and running your fingers down the side to get it nice and even. Okay, and then by the time you're done, it's most likely that the bottom will be distorted a little bit. That's fine. If you want to, you can texture it now. And I'm again going to use the same pattern. And you could use a texture mat as well. What you would do is you would roll this against the texture mat. There we go. And make sure to texture the top as well. There we go. Then grab your blade and just run that around the edge to straighten that out. And again, it is going to get sanded, so the edge will get taken care of once it is baked. Okay, and now the difficult bit is going to be to get off, and what you do is you're just going to hold it like so very gently, and you're just going to gently start twisting, just kind of encouraging it to get off of the blank, like so. And you may need to retexture afterwards. There we go. Okay, once you've worked that free, just give it a little tap to flatten out the bottom again. I then re-pop it on and just give it a quick retexture. You could even work it off the piece before texturing so that you don't dull out the texture, but it should be much easier to get off now. There we go. And there's your other little bead cap. And this one I'm going to bake just straight on the piece. And as for this one, it would basically be the exact same as the brush, except that it's a little larger and it doesn't have a tapered end, so you'd end up with a flat edge. And also because it's wood, you'd be able to bake this. But these ones I'm going to bake for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, because that's the polymer clay that I am using. And then once they're done, I'll show you how to work it off of here, and then we're going to give them a sand and antique them. Okay, and now I want to show you one final way to make bead caps. At least in this video, there are lots of ways to make them, but this is generally how you would do it if you want to keep a really specific pattern. The two that I showed you just now are great if you want a textured piece and aren't too worried about the pattern looking perfect. This one is more for if you're looking for a really exact pattern and you're going to be using things like canes on your piece. So this is how you're going to do it. You're going to need a piece of polymer clay. This is again black, but it was rolled out to half the thickness of the last one, so about 1/2 millimeter thick. And I'm going to use this translucent flower cane, and I have a link in the description to the video where I show how to make those. But you can use any cane you want and just cut out pieces as thin as you can get it. It doesn't matter if you can't get it too thin. We're gonna make sure that the clay is the right thickness before we use it, but just basically pattern the clay however you would like it to be patterned. In this case, I'm going to be using translucent flowers, and I'm just going to trim away the extra clay. Okay. And then you would lay the cane slices down, assuming you're using cane slices. But yeah, you can use this technique that I'm showing you right now with just about any pattern of clay. Okay, and that should do. Just going to bring that a little closer, and then because I'm using cane slices, I am going to burnish it flat like so. And you can use a roller to do it as well. Just don't roll back and forth like this, just roll, or burnish the roller, I guess, and that will help you get everything nice and evened out. Okay, then lift, and that should be completely smooth. Going to trim away the extra clay, lift that up, that can get moved to the side. And this is what we're going to work with. And so that the clay doesn't stick, I am going to be working on a piece of printing paper. Hold on, let the camera focus. There we go. And I am just going to burnish it again, just to make sure everything's even. Again, trimming away your extra clay and straightening up at least one edge, and straightening up the other edge as well. There we go. Then you want some kind of rod. You can either use the wooden one that I showed before, that works quite well because it doesn't stick so much. There also is the option of using a metal rod. I'm going to be using that because it's a bit thinner, but both are bakeable, and that's kind of the important bit because we want this to stay in shape. I'm going to take that and I'm going to wrap that around the rod like so, smoothing as I go right up till the end. Make a little indent, peel it back a little bit and trim right on that line. And when we roll that up, it should meet up almost exactly. If it doesn't, peel it back a little bit and trim again, because we want this one, we are really trying to keep it as nice and even as possible. The other two I showed are a little bit more free flowing, which is nice sometimes, but also sometimes it's nice to have something that's just a little bit more detailed. Then you're going to just gently fold over that seam line, kind of like what you did with the others. Run your finger along it, smoothing it out. You can even roll against the paper, and again it's a nice situation because this will prevent fingerprints and you keep a nice clean effect. And just keep doing that until the whole thing is smooth. Okay, then I am going to trim away the ends because the ends always look a little on the messy side. Again, working on the piece of paper means that we can keep it nice and clean. There we go. Break that off. Repeat on the other side. Okay, and there we go. And this is also another way that you can make beads. It doesn't have to be a bead cap. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut this in half, like so. And bear in mind we are going to be sanding it, so it doesn't have to be completely even at this point. But you do want to cut it off in half, ready to go. And if they're a little too long for you, you can always trim off the ends. I am probably going to shorten them up a little bit. But just get them down to the right size. And then you're going to bake them on the rod as they are. And then we're going to attach the tops after they're baked, so that we get a completely nice, even, clean surface. And I'll pop that in with the others and bake that for about an hour. Okay. Okay. Then once they're out of the oven and have cooled down completely, you can then get them off the form. Sometimes it can be a little hard to get off, but you should be able to pop it off. That is one of the reasons why you would want to use something like a wooden form, because I find it's easier than with metal, but either way it works. Then you snap them down the seam line and you should have two little pieces. And this is great for making beads. As you can see, you could use those exactly as they are for that, but we're going to continue with those in a second to form them into bead caps. This one you also are going to want to get off, and you can see that foil did a really good job of creating a stick-free situation. And these ones, they're baked just freeform. So I'm going to put these to the side. I'm probably going to make another one of these. In the case of bead caps, you might want to make two blanks so that you can bake them at the same time, because otherwise you're going to have to do them individually, and that can take a little bit of time. In these ones' case, I have a piece of black, again the same thickness as the bead caps were made, and I have the two little flower canes and a little circle cutter, And all we're going to do is the circle cutter needs to go slightly over the top of your bead caps. And you're going to cut out the top, like so. Okay, and they don't have to stay perfectly round, don't worry about a small amount of distortion, that's perfectly fine. And then you're going to choose the top of your piece. You can place that on top, and I'm actually going to bring over some liquid clay, that will make this easier. And I'm just going to use a little bit of Kato clear liquid clay. Any translucent liquid clay would work. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that and I'm going to dab that around the top of the bead cap, like so. And then place this down on top. And that will help it stick. And if you can find a cutter that is almost the exact same shape or diameter as this, that would be ideal, because then you can just place it on and pretty much you're good to go. I'm just pressing a little bit because it's a little larger, and I'm also trying to get a slight dome. And also this is going to help bond it to the surface. But there we go. And that's the top of your bead cap. You would then pop that into the oven for another at least half an hour at your brand's recommended temperature. You do not need to put it back on the mandrel that you used. You can just pop it straight on in the oven like that. Also repeat the process with this one, and I'm going to make another one of these. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. So these ones are pretty much good to go, apart from the fact that they need to be varnished. You can give them a quick sand on the bottom if they need, but they should be pretty much good to go. These ones, however, do need some tending to, and that's just because we've gone with the kind of solid colour texture route. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some white acrylic paint. Any white acrylic paint will work. Just going to pop a little bit of that down. And just take that and brush that into all those little nooks and crannies that you've created. And this is going to antique our piece. And I've done that with all 4 of them. Then you want to allow them to dry, like I have. And then just run a wet rag over the surface to wipe away the surface paint, like so. And you'll do that with all of them. And then what I would recommend doing is popping them into the oven for like 5 minutes just to heat set that paint. Makes a big difference. And then we'll sand them, because when we're sanding we can clean up any areas where our rag has not managed to get the paint off. But you can see how that really brings out the texture and it just makes it look much nicer. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. I've got a piece of 400 grit wet dry sandpaper here, and I have wet the pieces so that they sand easily. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run them on the sandpaper in a circular pattern, just to grind down the bottom and to even it out. And then also what I will do is I will just run the sandpaper over the surface just lightly to remove the last of that surface paint, and that will clean it up nicely. Okay, and here they are after they've been sanded. Then you're just going to grab a drill. This is a handheld pin drill, and you're going to drill through the top of your bead caps, and that should be a very quick and easy process. and you'll do that for all of them. Okay, then we are going to varnish them, and what we're going to do that is I'm just going to grab a length of wire and I'm going to create a loop at both ends. Just need to get that through the hole again. There. But I pop a loop at both ends so that you can suspend it, and we're going to drop this into some gloss varnish. You can also brush on the varnish if you want to, but I'm going to dip them. Okay, and I've also got a length of wire, just there, and that's what I'm going to use to suspend these. You'll just pop them on the wire, like so, and just drop them into the varnish, and then suspend them, and allow them to drip a little bit, and then I will take them out of the bucket and I'll pop them onto a little basket off to the side, just to let them dry for about half an hour, and I'll do that for each of them. Then once they're done doing that, then I can show you how you're going to use them. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours and they're completely dry. Now what we are going to do is we are going to use them to assemble a necklace. So I've got this seed bead necklace right here, and I am going to be doing a tutorial showing how to make one of these seed bead necklaces. This is probably the one that I'm going to be using. The video will go out around the same time as this one. There should be a link in the description below for that video, and that will show you how to actually make this piece. But for now I'm going to show you how to finish it off. So you're going to want a length of wire, any colour that you want. I'm using silver, and you're going to grab a round nose pliers, and you're going to grab the end of that, and you're just going to create a nice simple loop like so. Okay. And then you're going to use that loop to grab onto either one or multiple cord ends. In this case I've got about 6. And I'm just going to grab all of those, and then you're going to pop them onto that loop, and that can take a little bit, especially when you've got lots of them, so bear with me for a moment while I do that. Okay, and then once you've got them all on, just close that loop up, and that will have all of your cords held together. Then you're going to take that and you're going to thread that through your bead cap and pull those cords ends into your bead cap so that you end up hiding them. That's the whole point of these bead caps, is that you hide the cord ends. Then bend that wire, grab your round nose pliers, and again make a loop. And I like to do one twist of the wire around just to really secure that. Then trim that wire. It can be a little bit tricky to get in there, but trim that and hold the tail so that it doesn't ping off like that did. And just get that little loop in there. Okay, and then it's simple as grabbing a jump ring and attaching your clasp. Now these bead caps work the best when they match a pendant that you have made. In this case I don't have a pendant that matches these, but in the case of when you make them, they work really well when they match with a pendant, because then your end findings match with your centerpiece. Also, I am planning on doing a video on how to make your own polymer clay clasps. That's another thing that would be great if you could match it all up. If you had the bead caps, the clasp, and then a pendant, and it all matched, that would look really good. But for today, I am only showing off the most simple way to create bead caps. Now, I am going to show you how to use these ones, and these ones can get used as bead caps, but I also want to show you how to use them as a pair of earrings, almost like cones for earrings. So I'm going to grab those two. Okay, and for this next bit you're going to need 3 eye pins, and for each of them you're going to want them to be a different size, and to do it you're going to trim them. So I'm going to just trim off a little bit of this one. And this one I'm going to trim off an even smaller amount. Just making sure to hold those ends. And this one I'm going to leave the exact same length. Then you're going to grab each of them. And I've got these little red coral beads here. And you can make your own with polymer clay. I have shown how to create coral, faux coral in the past with polymer clay. I will link that in the description below if you are interested. But just regular coral beads will work, or any red beads really. And you'll just pop those onto the head pin, I guess, and then create a loop at the top of each head pin, like so. And you'll do that for all 3. Then, once you've done that, grab another head pin. I'm going to trim off the end, again just holding it so it doesn't ping off into the wrong places. I'm going to create another loop, open that up, and you're going to pop all 3 of these onto that loop. Like so. Close that loop up, and then what I will do is I'm going to grip these right at the top, and I am just going to wrap them around each other just a little bit so that I create a more stable piece, because I don't want them all moving all over the place. And it's up to you how much or how little you do that, and take a little bit of time to fuss with that and how it's going to look, but that should work. Then I'm going to grab our bead cap, slip that through, and then you can see how they're going to look like that. You're going to pop a gold spacer bead on, like so. Bend that wire over, grab your long nose pliers, bend that wire over the top and around into a wrap. Trim that tail away. There we go. And just take care of that little overhang, you don't want that poking out. Then grab your ear wire of choice, open that up, pop that on and close it back. And there you go, you've got something a little different there. Okay, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be showing today for the bead cones or bead caps. I will be showing a video on how to create a seed bead necklace like this, with these being the focal point, so it'll probably be a black and white one, but I will link to that video when it comes out. But yeah, these are a bunch of ways that you can use bead caps. Also bear in mind these are very simplistic designs. Usually I would go more in depth with my designs, and I do plan on doing that in the future, so let me know in the comments if you would like to see more complex bead cap designs, and I'll work on tutorials for those. Again, thank you for watching, it was a pleasure, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.